Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Bird. To have a very special guest with us today. She's a painter and nail artist. Please welcome Ameya Okamoto. Hello, Ameya. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Asia. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about nails and art.
This is incredible. So happy to have you. So I want to go ahead and ask, like, where are you originally from, and how'd you get started in nails and art?
So I grew up with a lot of financial, housing, family chaos, instability, which meant that I moved around a lot. I think this is actually kind of a common thing for a lot of creatives I've noticed, but I come from multiple hometowns. So I grew up going back and forth between New York City and Portland, Oregon. So a lot of my identity is kind of this mishmash of East West Coast, and coming from like Mecca for diversity city in America, as well as at the time as, early 2000s, 2010s, Portland was actually the whitest major city in America. And so I come from these two very different world hometowns. I grew up going back and forth literally every 3 months. So very much, my whole childhood was kind of living out of duffel bags and going back and forth between my two homes. And when I was still in contact with both parents too. But I think a lot of my artistic identity and artistry came out of that lifestyle. More specifically, the social and racial tensions that I grew up with experiencing on two extreme ends.
Right.
Racism exists everywhere.
Right.
It's just a different brand. North, south, east, west, racism is everywhere insidiously. It's just the way that it's presented on a silver platter or in a little sandwich, right? Like it's
Right.
palatable it is and how palatable you are to the people around you. And so a lot of I think for me, creativity and art making was always a part of my life and a part of who I am, right? Like, I think that's very common also for creatives where, why do you make art? Well, it's impulsive, right? It's something I have to do. Whether I'm making art and I'm saying I'm making art or I'm not, I was always making things. And so as I got older and was able to, kind of art became the conduit for a lot of my personal anger towards a lot of injustices that I was experiencing or that I was seeing being experienced across the spectrum of America, coming from so many different parts, kind of not the Midwest, but like spanning from the East West Coast, which is so different. That is, I think, where I would personally point my like artistic voice coming from. But creating art was always a thing that I did, right? Like, whether, I have ADHD, so I'm gonna bounce around a lot. So you're gonna have to organize my speaking a little bit. But I will say, when my family fell apart in New York, my mom picked up me. I'm in the middle of 3 girls. My mom packed me and my sisters up, put us on a plane, and took us basically as far away from New York City as possible. And that ended up being Portland, Oregon. And she did not know at her very young time that at the age she was, that was the whitest major city in America. Would she have done that if she had known that fact? I don't know. But that is a decision that she made that has impacted my life forever. So when we moved from New York to Portland, the way that I would make friends, because I was the only like Asian kid or person of color in a lot of my classes, was I would draw things. And I would make little duct tape animals and flowers and stuff. And I was like really depressed. I had the emo phase and surrounded by all these like white girls. And the way that I would make friends with the girls and the boys is like in very like hetero terms, that the boys would come at me, because Portland is very traditional, I think, value system. People don't want to think it, but it is. The boys would come and give me car names, and I draw them like Corvettes. And then a lot of the girls would come up and be like, I want a Cocker Spaniel, I want like a Dachshund, and I draw them dogs and animals. So art just, I think, automatically became at a very young age a way for me to like connect with people, which kind of goes back to what you're saying about like art for me is very much about community and how do I connect and how do I tell stories and other people's stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you're about social issues, and especially what's been going on now and what recently just happened in New York. Like, it was
everywhere.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's things are happening every single fucking day. And even that the news broke around Buffalo, and I was on a call with my friend Danny, who I run the Artist Initiative for Revolution with. We're thinking like, what can we do around the city? At that same time, like that same hour, we got like an Amber Alert like in Oregon, less than a mile away from my house. There's a 13-year-old Asian girl who was found like her body was found off the side of like the road less than a mile away from our house. And we're in like a suburban area neighborhood, and like the cops had said that they had like labeled the case as a runaway. And it's like there's so much fucked up shit, and I think it's my whole life, it's like what is the point, like this is a huge question of like being on this earth. What is the point and why? And I think as somebody who's really struggled with that, answering that question, for me, it has always been, I can exist here and I can keep going, and I'm here if I'm able to do work around making it better, or bringing these stories to light, or telling the stories that were, cut off early.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to talk about these issues and stuff like that, and I like with art because we can express that through our work of what's going on and things like that. So that's the beautiful thing about being creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who would you consider to be like your favorite like nail artist?
Nail artist wise, I actually took all these screenshots because I was like, I cannot forget some of my favorite nail artists for you. I'll like do a little list of names, but first and foremost, like, so I got into nail art, like I think the artistic, like funky, fresh, like I would say subculture of nail art, actually through one of my best friends whose name is Emily Gonzalez, and she's from Miami, and she's Cuban. And so she grew up kind of an artist in love with like kind of the chonga aesthetic that was, labeled as trashy or very crass, right? Dark lip liner, very chola, like, chonga chola culture, and long nails, Evie Queen, Lagoni Chonga in Miami. And so I think having like a best friend who is so immersed within that culture, but also like internally struggling with it, she introduced me very naturally to artists like Crocaine. Right, who is the hashtag Toes to Match gang. And I think having a friend who's like within the Miami like nail culture was so that happened. And then I moved to Chicago last year when I transferred to art school, and I learned about the one, I swear, the one like subculture artsy avant-garde nail artist in Chicago, Lex, who's finger paint. She's incredible. She does these crazy sculptural works. Nails by May, the Japanese nail artist in New York, right? Who she is like the fashion moment, like Vogue art, like not necessarily like I think the kind of the bio-inspired sculptural art that I feel more connected to, but she is killing it. And then my all-time favorites, like just getting straight inspiration from, that I always copy their sets and credit, is Juan Olivier. I don't know if I'm pronouncing their last name correctly, and Sucker Nails, who I think is London based. But I'm constantly on social media. Instagram is the best for nails, and finding artists who are doing things that look impossible, right? Like that, the goal of art in general is to make things that look like they're really easy to make, but so clearly nobody else can do that. And so I've fallen in love with the work of these artists who do these crazy sculptural, funky sets that, every nail is like a completely different adventure.
Yeah, exactly. That's same thing with Editorial Nail, Kanisha Sams, you have Amy Vega, who does like these cool nails and things like that.
Realist, yeah.
Yeah. So you got a lot of incredible nail artists, like Spiffster. I love Spiffster's work. Her stuff is really, really awesome.
Yeah, there's so many others, that Neil Sucre, like.
Yeah, like, it's really cool to see like everybody's style is different and the possibilities are endless with nail art.
And also the different cities. And I think that it's been interesting. I currently live full-time in Chicago. And like I said, my hometowns, Portland and New York, are the coasts. And so I think that growing up, I was really aware of how my personality and my artistry was a mixture of both cities. Like I definitely have the New York City directness, and like the no bullshit attitude, while also having like a Portland politeness, a little bit struggling with being too over apologetic and very colorful, where a lot of New York aesthetics tend to be very like black and white and very editorial inspired, and Portland is weird. And now I'm in the Midwest in Chicago, where the nail art and the art culture in Chicago is incredible, but people, I have noticed, are a little bit more, I don't want to say afraid, because I don't think the emotion is fear. I think it's more like hesitancy to like step too far outside of the box. So I'm excited to I'm still at the very beginning of my commercial nail journey. I'm going to start working at a salon actually this summer, where I've just been doing press-ons and nails out of my dorm for like art students for the past like year or so. So I'm excited to kind of like join the city from my personal like standpoint, pulling in all my inspirations and like be somebody who can help just like talent wise, expand the idea of like what is possible with these mini canvases that we have on our fingers, because that is really what we're doing.
Right.
Nails are so personal and so emotional. I think they're totally an extension for me of an art form.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of doing clients, what has been your experience doing nails for other clients?
It's mostly been, I think, friends so far, especially because I'm, again, really early in my nail journey. Of course, like YouTube University, I've had so many people reach out to me, like young girls, be like, I want to start doing nails. What do I do? Like, I started nail school. And I'm like, listen, I love A+ Nail Shoot School in Chicago. Loretta, my teacher, is incredible community. Like, I love my friends from nail school. But we all know that nail school is very much about getting your hours in when it's all just practice, right? Like, you teach yourself what you teach yourself. And the role of nail school, at least for me and for a lot of people, how like the owner of the nail school, Eunice Munn, for me explained when I was interviewing, was you do a lot of things, but you don't know why you do them. And to make that next step to like nail tech, you should know why.
Right.
Health-wise, liability-wise. Yeah, but client-wise, I think, honestly, I think I can't speak too much on it, because most of my work right now is kind of people are coming to me for, press-on sets that they can reuse, or like for specific larger events, because they tend to be pretty funky long nails that I do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I also do like, nail art, like press-on nails and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, you
And
have the sculptural thing. I like the frog one.
thank you so much. Yeah, so like for me, I'm a licensed cosmetologist, so I had to obtain like 1,500 hours, and I'm in the Washington D.C. area, specifically in Maryland. And so the thing is with nail education, like how you said, like it's the hours to pass, but it's also you got to be fully equipped for the nail industry or the beauty industry in general. So once you know a lot, you have more of that preparedness. And the thing is, like even before I stepped into cosmetology school, I had to learn a ton of stuff on my own, because I've started getting into nails since I was like 14 years old. So, that's the thing. So you do have to learn a lot of stuff on your own and get into nail classes on your own.
And you could definitely speak on this more than I can, because I think for me, like, again, I started doing nails in October. And I know that I can make a joke. I'm like, I'm a prodigy because I love my nails. But it was such an easy entrance for me because I was already a painter. Right. And so it was just kind of scaling my work down. And I'll explain this later, but like the digital art that I do is all done on a trackpad, like of me going like that. So the scale wasn't that hard for me. I think more of the culture shock and the learning for me was joining the beauty industry, which was not an industry that I thought I would ever join. I got to go to the American Beauty Show in Chicago a couple weeks ago, with the big Midwest beauty show, and the big ladies with the big hair from I met so many people, and I think that I don't know if it's in general, but there weren't a lot of nail booths. But what I did do is meet a lot of people within that industry, and I think learning the certain personality types that are stereotypes that are totally true.
Yeah.
Like that, and also learning about just the general culture and competition and collaboration and curiosity. And as an Asian American person, I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but like my angle into nail art and the beauty industry, and my first toe dip was, I want to do nails because I like nails and I can't find anyone who can do the nail art that I want them to do.
Right.
I can't afford this. These sets take like 6 or 7 hours. So then who, at like 22, like how am I gonna find that? How am I gonna afford that? So that's why I started doing my own nails. And then it very quickly for me became about Asian American identity and service work. And Asian people, my grandparents immigrated from Taiwan on my mom's side and opened a Chinese restaurant. On my biological father's side, they came over and also opened, Japanese restaurants in Anchorage, Alaska. And so that's where, nail salons across America are predominantly owned by Vietnamese immigrants. And that is, the home bases that they pull their family, from, depending on the socioeconomic status of the certain neighborhoods. Your nail salons, most of the time, like 90% of the time, will be Asian owned, but owned by different Asian ethnicity based off of the socioeconomic status of that area. And I thought that, the more that I, got into nails as somebody who has a sociology background, but also a very acute, intentional, and passionate interest in justice work and racial justice work, nail art for me became very much so about identity work. And, who are the people who, are doing the nails, and who are the people who own the beauty salons and beauty shops, but also who are the women who are bravely, confidently, and so iconically bringing nail art into the culture.
Right.
Black and Latino women, and like Evie Queen, right? And Nicki Minaj. Like, these are the women that are bringing the aesthetics into the culture. And so it's kind of, it's interesting, I think, for me also to be somebody who, has, is so honestly honored and lucky to be existing as an Asian American person within activist spaces that are, centered around Black people, and having, Black artists who I'm able to talk to about, kind of being in this unique crossroads as an Asian nail tech that I think a lot of people don't really think about during a time of the two, largest civil rights movements, which is a crazy fact in history, which is Black Lives Matter and now Stop Asian Hate. And so that's things that I'm thinking about as a nail tech also, personally. So for me, it's a very like artistic, fun, like funky, fresh angle, but also to be like an Asian nail tech walking through like the very white American beauty show with like my two friends who are like Mexican and Black, and we're like walking around in our early 20s with our nails. Like, that means something, whether we like it or not. That means something. It's very disruptive. Even though we're the ones who are bringing nails into our culture, and we're why Sharon goes to work with red nails in the almond shape. Like, we are the ones, our history is the reason why they do that. And so that's a very important part of being a nail tech for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially within, my culture, Black culture, like, Black women have set the trends in terms of with nails.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, we made these things popular. At first, it was seen as ghetto. Now everybody wants bling, everybody wants jewelry and all the other, bling. So the thing is, it goes to show like
everything.
Yeah. So it goes to show that, Black people are the trendsetters.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even like you Google, like, you can Google so many iconic, celebrities. And I mean, the first one I'm thinking about, because I just have so many screenshots, like Evie Queen, who I think it's Dominican, right? If you Google Evie Queen nails, enter, all these Cosmopolitan articles come out from 2003, 2004. They're titled Ivy Queen's ugly nails. What is up with Ivy Queen's ugly ass nails? Like, they're so whack, like they're so, and she kept doing it because, right, that's like a cultural moment. And that is why we can walk around like this and everyone, oh my God, I love your nails. Like, but I think it's, I maybe it's because I'm a history buff, but I don't think so. Like, I think it's important for us to think about those things every time we put, those on.
Yeah. Same thing with, the world's top track runner, Flojo, Florence Griffith Joyner. Like, she had those long nails, on the track. So these trends,
everything,
have evolved so much. And nails are just as much of a fashion piece as a garment. Fashion, nails coming together. It's really amazing to see.
I mean, Vogue just did the nail shoot. That was huge. That was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really, really incredible. So how can you describe like your art style if you had to describe it?
I think, so this is something I struggle with because I think that I'm still very aware of my own positioning as like developing, emerging, right? Like, still figuring it out. None of us know what we're doing. And I honestly hope that I spent so much of my early I think like teen years, being like, I need to style, I need a thing, I need a thing. What am I passionate about? And the further I get into embracing my identity and my I don't want to say lifestyle, just existence as an
Mhm.
artist, the more I'm like, you know what, I want to stay in this Fluxus
Right.
amoeba like creative sphere for as long as possible. So I will preface with that. Um, at the same time, my artist statement is very much like community based,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know, bold, like scaled installation, social practice work. So I do a lot of different things, and I have my hands in a lot of different pots, whether it is, you know, activism based work or my painting work, which is a lot more figurative and personal, or my memorial portrait series, which is extremely personal, and shared differently than, let's say, like my nail art, which is mainly on social media. So I think
Mhm.
that's still a question that I'm figuring out. But I think that the two main themes that other people have helped me identify in my work is color and, you know, direct marks. Right, everything is very confident in the way that it's applied, whether I'm confident or not. um, and an exploration of community, and as well as relationships between other people and the relationships I have with other people.
Right. Because I could see within your work, it has that pop art vibe with your,
Yeah.
contemporary work. It kind of reminds of Andy Warhol. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I used to call them color pops when I thought
Mhm.
I was gonna be like an illustrator. Yeah, and I had a logo and everything. But yeah, I'm very inspired by, I didn't want to admit it because I think as a, you know, artist who grew up in New York, um, where I was surrounded by museums full of like old dead white men, you know, I thought that I had to be this like intense oil painter to be considered an artist, you know. So
Mhm.
I have an internalized aversion towards digital art and um, the kind of pop art aesthetics, that I'm
Mhm.
so attracted to them like candy. And
Mhm.
so something that I've only embraced in the past year, and I think part of it is going to an art school like the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which is a lot more open to new waves of artists and new trends than more traditional conservatory schools. I do want to give SAC that credit. Is realizing that it kind of is a little bit of a strong suit though to be somebody who's embracing, I think, internet culture, because I think that is where we're headed, and that's something that I'm becoming more, it's something I've always done, right? Like I've always been doing digital art because it's so easy and
Mhm.
fast. And for doing, you know, the reason why I kind of settled into digital art is because I do social justice work that requires really tight deadlines. And you can't finish an oil painting in 30 minutes, but you can finish a huge print and print it out like 10 feet by 10 feet in 30 minutes on Photoshop.
Mhm.
And that's something that I learned just naturally in the work that I was doing. And so I now look at that and kind of embrace, you know, the computer and aesthetic and the Andy Warhol, right, like the color field
Right.
work,
Right.
as more of an inspiration point and less of something that, you know, I'm running away from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's the same with me. I'm like very colorful. I love creating my own characters. I love having
Color.
a distinct style. And that's the thing, when you look at like, I've been very inspired by like Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat, James Jean. Like these are people who have distinct styles
Yeah, you have
and
the
they're very
same
great
list
use of
that I
color.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah, yeah. So, the same thing with what's another artist I could think of? There's this other artist named Kirby Rosanes, and I love his work. His work is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And he does like a lot of these like black and white pen and ink drawings where there's so much stuff going on. So I got heavily inspired by him. So there's a lot of artists that are
Who
really, really inspirational.
who's your like favorite painter? Because you're like a painter, right, too?
I do like mostly digital. Like I
Yeah.
do like I'm a painter in terms of nail art, but I'm like a digital artist and I work with like Illustrator and a fan design, which is like a cheaper version of
We can do it all.
yes.
That's that's the dirty secret, is the world wants to box you into certain, but the best advice I ever got from a mentor was, people kept asking me for bios, right? Like when you do a little job or something, they want your bio. And they kept putting Ameya Okamoto, social practice artist. And the social practice art is like art that's created with intention to do some sort of social change work. And because I do a lot of installation work and community-based work, right, where I bring a bunch of shit and then crowds come and then I'm handing people like paintbrushes. I was
Right.
like, I'm a social practice artist. And they're like, no, Ameya, you're 18. You're an artist. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, I think that's like the dirty little secret that I wish all artists knew is like you actually don't have to choose, you know.
Right, right. Yeah, my favorite painter I would say would be like, Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat, especially
Yeah.
Jean-Michel Basquiat, and the way his mark making was, it was so loose, but it was talking about
Oh,
social issues.
yeah. I think another name to add, because we have a very similar list, Asia, is Henry Taylor.
I haven't heard of him.
He's still alive. He is the funniest motherfucker in the entire world. His Instagram username is Chinatown Taylor for some reason, but I forget where he's based. But he's an old Black man who does these incredible contemporary, like almost like comedic, like he'll like paint himself like brushing his teeth in the bathroom. And then he has like a selfie. He went to a Tyler the Creator show
Oh,
and he like put on the hat that like Tyler was wearing, and they're like he's super funny, and he's just this old. I mean, he's gonna, if he ever sees this, like, I don't mean to call you old, Henry. You're like my favorite painter in the entire world, but he has such a distinct acrylic style, and he started. I think he was a janitor for most of his life in like public schools, and he was just painting on the side. And he's like one of those artists that you do, because why are we're doing art because it's like we have to, right? It's just
right.
us. And he got discovered, and now he's in like Mocha and MoMA and stuff like that. Yeah, add Henry Taylor to your list though, because I think we have very similar tastes.
Yeah, I'll definitely check them out. Now, in terms of press on nails, so you sell press on nails. So what has been your experience having your own press on nail business?
Um, I think my biggest challenge, logistics
Mm-hmm.
and keeping track of everything. I use the Notes app right now.
Mm-hmm.
um, and also because I think that, nails are a surprising but quickly one of my favorite streams of income for myself to pay for my life. And a lot of times I think with nails right now, because I'm so early on in my career, I'm very much breaking even, right? Like you have to buy a $200 nail drill. Like you better go get some press on orders.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my biggest feedback is like that social media for me has been my number one source of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I joined TikTok in December, and it has been 5 months. And TikTok has become a very random career for me. Didn't think I was going to be a content creator at that capacity, but it did happen.
Right.
I think it was the hair videos. I think it was the viral hair videos. But TikTok has been super fun, and I think that for me, TikTok is all about just like fashion and my personality, and it very much like stress relief and anxiety relief for me. And I do have ADHD, so it's just like one stream of thought I don't have to think about is like my TikTok content. And I think majority of my orders off of nails have come from social media. And
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's attached to a kind of a, I'm hesitant to say like brand, but like brand image for myself, because it's
Right.
just like me doing me, right?
Right.
The Ameya brand, like hair and nails, I'm like, this is just me doing me. But like
Right.
the brand is people will contact me and they already know if they pull up some boring reference image, I will say no. Like
Right.
I can't focus. So I most of my orders are freestyle, where they say, I want some nails. I say, send me some reference images, whether that's, photos of yourself when you look, where you feel the most hot, and then I'll match your vibe, right? Like one sculpt, like some sort of like boba tea nail set isn't going to work for somebody who wants more like bimbo Miami vibes.
Mm-hmm.
But I can match that energy at the level that I want to. So usually it's just like, send me some inspo photos, even if it's like a
Right.
mushroom, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah, yeah. Because with your nails, it's like a lot of like, it's very colorful, like how with your artwork, and
Yeah.
especially you do like water marbling, you do the dots and things like that. So I find that to be very, very cool.
Yeah. I think it's I didn't mean for it to be right, because I got into nails because I was like, I want to just do my own nails, and I was gonna copy sets, and then I didn't realize it was until I was in it, I didn't realize how insanely cool nail art can be.
Right.
And now I'm totally obsessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of pricing, like, do you charge like by design? Like, how do you price your work in terms of press on nails?
Yeah. I think I'm at the very baby stages of learning how nails are priced. Like I'll reiterate, I've been doing nails for less than a year. I do them
Mhm.
addictively, so like I think I'm getting my 10,000 hours in pretty quickly. I'm doing nails constantly. And if anyone does follow me on TikTok, they know like I am a regular all-nighter puller.
Mhm.
I don't know how, if you know want to know how my body functions after like not sleeping for 40 hours, honestly, I don't either. It's just pure will. But I
Yeah.
do nails all the fucking time.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, side note. I think despite that, I'm still very early on in my nail career and I don't want to like gatekeep people out of, buying my work. And so I actually only charge $100 flat for literally everything right now.
Mhm.
And that has worked for me best, just 100 plus like shipping, but like that, and also like even people come in to get their nails done like in person in my little nail. I made a nail table in my wood shop at
Mhm.
my school. I'm not kidding. Um, I still usually only charge 100 flat, and then if people tip, if they don't, they're assholes. Always tip your nail artists. They're already underpaying themselves. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I think because my mentality, and I think I'm justifying it because I do think I'm undercharging, but because my nail sets are like 4 or 5 6 hours, but because I'm just trying to get my practice hours in, I'm much more inclined to do like quantity over money right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you heard like I don't know if you heard of these artists, Ballpit Nails and Viv Shoe, like they do like amazing like nail art and things like that. And with them, they charge like $200, $300 for a set of nails.
Yeah.
So, these are works of art just like anything else. So, if people want to buy a Coach bag, they should be willing to buy like $200 or $300 worth of press on nails.
Yeah. Ballpit is insane. Yeah, I found them on TikTok and then on Instagram. I think they're hilarious and they're
Mm,
very pregnant. Um, but I was so shocked because I do also like I don't know, I didn't send it to you, but I did a set for my friend Jenna Snyder Choily. Her husband Jake Choily is an up and coming incredible oil painter represented by Monique Maloke in Chicago. Like this is like art scene, right? And I did a set of nails for her for the art, like he had all these art like events, and I
mm,
replicated his oil paintings on nails, and it was his face, like, and it was one finger, right? And that shit takes forever. But I still only charged $100. I'm not calling Jenna out. It was just like because that is how much I quoted.
mm,
And I feel like that's fair because I'm still learning.
mhm.
At the same time, I did see at that week, that was the same week Ballpit posted the Lucky Charms nails, and the caption was like $350 or something. I remember being like, and calculating it when you break down the times and the hours, you're getting paid like $100 an hour. Like it's like that's like so fair. That's
Right.
even like honestly like as I mean, because you might know this doing other mediums, but like as a painter, if ignoring the whole part about how like when you're actually selling paintings, galleries sometimes take 50%. Like if you're really thinking about how much like paintings are money wise you get per hour, sometimes if you make it bigger, you're getting
Right.
paid like $100,000 an hour for those paintings, right? Like fine art, and that's where like my toe in fine art kind of skews the way that I like price nails, because it is very different to like think of nails as this art form, but also people are so much more brazenly confident in being so disrespectful about your time because
Mm,
it's service work.
right.
And so I'm thankful for myself having that background and being like, no, this is my time and my art, and like my the time I'm spending thinking about your nails and teaching myself skills and stuff like that. So it's yeah, trying to balance everything, but I think we'll figure out pricing once things get like when I get like too many nails, too many nail orders because it's like too accessible, then I'll worry about it. But right now I'm just having
Right.
fun.
Right, exactly. Now, in terms of your paintings and installations, what's like your whole process of doing like an installation or a painting? Like, do you do thumbnails? Like, what's your whole process behind that?
You're gonna, there is not a lot of process, and this might be surprising. I think it comes from, I used to think it was because I was just like so passionate.
Right.
But I got diagnosed with ADHD, like adult ADHD, less than a month ago.
Mm.
Nobody is surprised. In fact, my family is relieved. And so, that's kind of a full disclosure moment. I'm like really trying medication and figuring out what works for me, because my brain is very, very all over the place. And because I'm single mom, I've had to learn how to still pull straight A's and, mask and figure out my shit, despite the fact that I'm feel completely scattered 24/7.
Right.
The way that I think having ADHD has impacted my art practice, though, is the fact that I have little to no preparation. And it's because I just can't focus to do so. And I think that as much as, it's a weakness, it has been an incredible strong suit in certain sectors of my art practice, and has been a crazy strong suit in terms of, my positioning as, an activist doing social justice work with art, because it means that I can sit down and with no preparation, my process is sitting down and getting a call and creating an artwork, right? I don't sketch, I just go. And, a lot of the installation work that I do, I do a lot of large scale wheat pasting work, with my collective, or, organizing other things with my friends. A lot of that is like, it looks like it's very organized, and it is, but it's like, less than a week before, everyone getting down on phone calls, on Zoom calls, calling people, trying to get funding, trying to get all these things, and connecting with bands, and calling in favors from our friends who can show up to do the bass last minute, right? And then, you go to, I the last time I did a wheat paste thing, I literally snuck into my old college with my ID that doesn't even work, and just ran past the security guard and printed out like $400 worth of like 8.5 by 11 shitty, prints in the library, because they had free printing, and Kinko's was too expensive, ran out, mixed wheat paste like with my hand. Yeah, like it's very, I think it's very like ADHD. But yeah, no, I've never been a sketcher. I always carry around sketchbooks, but they're always empty. And I think that I'm now at a place where I think that's important representation in the art world, is I had a constant narrative that I was never prepared. And I think a lot of people who maybe got diagnosed later with ADHD will relate to this, like not prepared, lazy, disorganized, all these words and phrases that you tell yourself, or that people have told you. But really it's the fact that you have like you're not neurotypical, and you're able to pull things together really quickly. And that's like a thing. But I think that rush has also is very obvious in my art practice, because it comes through in like I think one of your questions that I read was like, how do you build color palettes? And I think because everything I do is done very like, I'm very intentional, but also very fast. And I think what that means is there's a lack of filter. And so when it comes to specifically color palettes, it's very much not like, oh, I wonder if like pink and blue goes together. It's like me being like, pink and blue probably goes together, and then yellow. And so when I paint, it's very quick and very intuitive. And I think it's similar with nails, is I take my nail colors out and my little like sticks, and I literally go choose 5 colors, pull them, make a palette, and just go.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I look at color palettes and I just like, okay, this is the color palette, and this is what I do. You know what I mean? With artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just like throw it together. Now, in terms of like your favorite art materials, what would you consider to be like your favorite art, like art paints, art brushes, and things like that?
Okay, things I always have on my body with me: masking tape and a Sharpie. These are, my early days of art and chaos. Creativity was, one of my I think I would say like mentor in activism, but also emotionally, artistically, Teresa Rayford, who's, the founder of Don't Shoot Portland in Portland. Growing up in high school, it was just me and her in her apartment in the Northwest. And I was like skipping school, and we were just like planning random art things and protests, little Asian girl, like just vibing out. Yeah, like seriously, that was like me in high school. And yeah, and I think that we never, okay, I literally just made I was talking to somebody about this, is I love to remind people artistically that, you will never, ever have enough time, money or resources / materials, right? You'll never have enough of all three of those. And that is especially true in terms of, I think, art or work within any social justice institutional sphere, right? Because you're working against not only systemic oppression, but hundreds of thousands of years of people not wanting you to do what you're doing. And everyone will push back at you. And nobody, like, not nobody, but like, it's like the feeling is nobody wants you to do or exist in what you're doing, right? And so I think being in activism work, and I use that word, I feel like the word activism and activist is thrown around so much these days, so I'm trying to be more intentional with the way I use it. But to exist in racial justice work in the whitest major city in America, I think it never felt like we had shit and materials, right? I was so lucky that Portland has a Goodwill, but it's like art supplies. It's called Scrap, and it's literally Goodwill for art supplies. And there's 2 locations, and I live really close to one. So when you ask, like, what are your favorite materials? For me, it's kind of like masking tape, Sharpies, and whatever's available. Because that was, my early art education was very much so like no arts education. We have this vision. We want to make this mural, or we want to do a workshop, and we're going to bring all these second graders into a room, and you're a high schooler, but can you teach them and do something and entertain them for 2 hours and teach them about protest art? Was, sure, let me go grab a bunch of yarn and half-used markers, right? Because I have $10 in my pocket. Yeah. And that, I mean, seriously, like, I think that I really don't think that art materials are something that I personally, and this is my art practice, I know people get really specific about what materials they use, but I think because I came from such a scarcity mindset with art materials, I really embrace the mentality of like, do what you can with what you got. So for me, it's very much reliant on like Sharpies and tape. That's my long answer. In terms of painting, buy the golden acrylic, like, it's worth it. That's something I learned in the past couple of months, is I was trying to like save some money and use like the Blick no, like if acrylic Blick acrylic paint is like the Prius, then the golden acrylic paint is like the Tesla, like it's different, right? Buy the nicer paint, buy the nicer canvas. But in like the larger grand scheme of like art making, I really think that there needs to be an elitism downgrade of like, when I show up to do workshops, I don't go get Prismacolor pencils. I go get Crayola markers. And you know what, like the students I work with, the young artists who are like 17, 18, like they don't have a problem using Crayola markers to create incredible work,
Yeah, that's the thing with that. Like for me, it's like Posca markers and like the Micron pens and, the Craft Smart acrylic paint, the gouache, like, those are like my favorite too, especially when I do nail art.
Sticky notes, also sticky notes.
Yes, sticky notes. But is that the same way in terms of like nail products? Do you like get like the cheap alternative ones, or, or is it a whole different thing?
So okay, so 2 questions, right? And I think that for me, as much as I say like, oh, they're very connected emotionally, technically it's very different. And I think the reason for that is because nail art is like, that goes on someone's body. And so I think that I think you can't really cut corners when it's somebody's health. And that's something I think that's something that in Asian culture, I think in a lot of non-white American cultures, it's like, you don't trust your doctor, like you don't trust Western medicine, like like trust the grandpa shaman who lives down the street, my mom putting tiger balm on literally everything, or like the tea that she got. So even with that, I think Gen Z wise, I'm at a new level of Western medicine where I'm like, no, like we need to like sterilize and like get nice products. And, like we need to use it to hydrate, or like use like a new nail file. Like, so I do think it's different. I do. And also like, because I haven't been in the game for that long, I'm still learning about products. Because full disclosure, like right now, all the colors I use are the mini, the mini colors.
Mhm.
Because I was gonna get like, the primary colors, and because I'm a painter, I can mix any color.
Right.
I'm like, that's so silly. So I ended up getting 2 sets of 30 colors. So I have 60 colors, but they're all like the mini ones. There's one is a Johnson brand, and the other is Johnson and Model Loans. And they're
Mhm.
just like the 30 sets off Amazon. And they've honestly worked very well for me.
Mhm.
But I think as I expand just my craft, I'll learn more. And I'm sure like working at a salon is gonna open my world tenfold.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like the high quality products like Candy Coat, C&D, like once you get exposed to those type of products, like those are higher quality products. And
I
I've
have
used
yet I have yet to actually invest in like right now. Okay, guys, I don't use Gel X. Like, I don't have a Prey. I have like the Beatles knockoff of Prey nail glue. I use like plastic nail forms off Amazon. But I have been told, when I was talking to the owner of the salon I will be working at, Bedazzled in Chicago, I
Mhm.
was explaining to the owner, I was like, she's like, is this a Prey? I was like, no, hell no, it's not a Prey. What?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely not. Like
Yeah, hell no. And she was like, we only use a Prey products. And she was like, the quality. She was like, when you work here, you'll like learn the quality. And like, I will believe it when I see it, just
Mhm.
like acrylic paint. I might be proved wrong, but right now, that's what works for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Like with products, like once you know and understand the difference, you'll be like, oh, okay, these are better quality products. Like the time I competed next nails next time nail artists because we work with like C&D products because C&D
Ooh.
was the sponsor for the competition, so they give you everything to compete. So the thing is that once you get with higher quality products, whether it's like Madam Glam or
Mm,
like I said C&D or like a
I know
pre-gel,
what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, like you'll understand the difference, like and I use like Beatles nail polish and stuff like that. So but the nail tips for me, I go to Amazon and get that stuff. Especially for press on nails.
Also, you do like your nail design, one coat of builder's gel, and like basically those press-ons are not gonna crack, even if
Mhm.
like the dinosaur meteor comes down. Like
Yeah, yeah,
those are set. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But also too with the nail products you use, if you use like cheaper stuff, like how you said, it can affect somebody's health. Like MMA, that's illegal. You can't use that.
Mhm.
So use the best quality as best as you can.
Yeah. And also I think I'm learning like I think when I first started doing nails, I definitely cut corners
Hmm.
because I'm impatient, and it's weird. Certain art forms like I sewing, I will cut corners I can't do it. But with nails, I've learned that like because I'm so passionate about it, I will take my time. But I'd cut corners in the sense that like I um still need to find a good what's it called, ventilation system for myself. And like when I
Right.
do nails now, like when I do press-ons I don't, but like when I do people's nails now, I actually wear a mask because of
Mhm.
all the filing and stuff, and I didn't before. And like I think that's a good example of like little things like that where I was like, oh, like I don't need to do that, like oh no,
Mhm.
but like now realize that like if you're it's a job with really potentially intense like hazards,
Right.
health. Yeah, and that I think that connects a lot to like service work and like who does nails in like the quote unquote like chop shop salons.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Especially, when you look at beauty education, I think, safety and health is very vital, because especially understanding disorders and disease, understanding if people have allergies, doing a client consultation and things of that nature. So that's, safety is very important. And in that, the art and stuff that comes second. So you got to worry about the person's health first.
I mean, I took for granted prep and sanitation until I got greenies, and then I was like, I need to get my shit together.
Yeah, yeah. And I took a nail course and they taught me about like nail prep. And that helped me so much because I had issues with nail prep, myself. So once I learned like, okay, this is how you nail prep and things like that, like then I kind of knew what I
Yeah.
was doing. I was on the right track. I was like, okay, this is how you do it.
Yeah. I still need to figure out how to not file it too thin because I always want like the smooth edge, but I'm learning.
Mhm. Things take practice. Now I
Yeah.
want to get into in terms of your artwork, especially your big canvas work.
Mhm.
So do you charge by like, square feet? Like how do you charge in terms of those installations and paintings?
Um, paintings like installations with like wheat paste work on the ground or paintings like actual acrylic paintings on canvas.
Both.
So installation work wise, I usually don't get paid.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is because, when I get, so I have, I started so my collective right now that I work like basically full time on, where I run the artistic programming and anything else that's needed is the Artist Initiative for Revolution, which is Boston based, but we also do a lot of other work, education, community outreach. It's like me and Danny, my friend who started it. It's like we were always doing art and activism and we were kind of blindly doing it. And so we created this collective to create a support system for young artists who want to do who want to do the art that we were doing that we didn't have
Mhm.
support for and we didn't have
Right.
encouragement for. But I had actually started a collective before that called Irresistible in
Mhm.
2020, which was a regranting program where I was paying out of pocket actually at the time. I would make money from my personal art stuff that wasn't social justice related, and then I would created mini grants and I would pay BIPOC artists of color to create art for social justice, right? Because that work 90% of the time isn't paid. I ended
Mhm.
up having to shut that down in 2021 because that just wasn't financially sustainable for me at 20, 21 years old to like be like paying my own money to like also like I'm financially independent. And then I was like, I had a mentor be like, Ameya, like I know that all these people are yelling at you, and I know that like
Mhm.
you like I feel like you owe the world all these things, but like you don't owe the world enough to the point that like you're not eating, sleeping, and like you want to like kill yourself, but you're like
Right.
only alive to like pay artists to like make work that you also do. Like so, but that was my collective was inspired by the quote by the quote, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible by Tony King Bambara, who is an incredible American author. And
Mhm.
so that's like the antithesis of like I had that collective, but basically like this all is relevant. I know it sounds like a long roundabout way,
Mhm.
but art. If I get paid for social justice work, I put all that money into an irresistible fund, and
Mhm.
that money and this is I think maybe I'll get to a point. I think I've had some friends be like, Ameya, like you all that work is yours and you need to figure out a way to emotionally allow yourself to support your life with social justice work financially. But I think
Mhm.
personally, and this might be Asian guilt, if I'm being completely transparent, I don't feel comfortable using art, money that I've made from social justice work to like fund my own life. And that's why I have like nails and things to supplement. But I have an irresistible fund where like to fund things like community activism work, like printing all these prints, which last time I just snuck into my old school, I'll like take from that fund.
Mhm.
So a lot of the community work isn't paid. I do get paid to like teach, like teaching fees, or certain design fees, but in general, that's pretty unpaid. I think that the goal in the world, right? And like that's what I'm saying is like there aren't funds for us to do anti-establishment work, right? The goal is that we get people we get community organizations and local governments and big governments to start
Mhm.
supporting artists creating work to turn things around.
Right.
Because I wish there's people say like that's all hot, like oh social justice art is hot, but like if it was, there would be more funding for it and people would be
Right.
more open to funding it. So the goal is that there is more funding, but honestly like we're just not there yet, like as a society.
Mhm.
um and then my painting work I actually don't really sell yet, and
Mhm.
that's because even though it might look like I've been painting for a while, I have not. um so I've been a digital artist for since I was 11. So I actually don't sell my painting work right now, because it's just I'm just relatively very new to the medium.
Mhm.
And it's like I think my painting work is something I want to protect. Again, like I think that I'm very for artists being very protective of their work because we're still developing and learning.
Mhm.
um Yeah. And so I'm, I want to give myself at least like a couple years to really develop and emotionally break through that.
Yeah. Like, with me personally, I went to Savannah College Art and Design, which is
Georgia, yeah.
one of the top art schools in Georgia. I went to the Savannah campus, and that took me time in itself to develop my own style and things like that. So like I
That's
took
so
like
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I took art like seriously around like my second year of high school. And
Yeah.
so, I'm into like the abstract thing with the characters, and I like having my own distinct style. And that's what's really cool about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm still learning. I think, I do sell my paintings and stuff like that, but I think it's more of an open conversation as I'm
Right.
learning, because, you know, something that was instilled in me because, my early upbringing within the art world was social justice based is my commitment to accessibility. Everything I do is very, very much about how do we get art into spaces that otherwise wouldn't have art? How do we get art to families that wouldn't have access to that
Right.
not only art, but just like the level of art that's being made, right?
Mhm.
Because not all art is created equal. All art is art, but not all art is created equal, right? And the
Right.
time, care, effort, and education and
Exactly.
access that certain artists have, right? Like I have access to spaces like Art Basel or like Young Arts or like these
Right.
really bougie elite education, institutions for art. How do we get
Right.
those into communities that wouldn't otherwise have it? So that's a really big core value of mine, I think, as an artist and creative. And so that definitely comes into play when it comes to like how am I pricing my work and how am I sharing my work. And I think
Mhm.
I figure that out and adjust every single job or step of the way.
Mhm. Now, what's your take on fashion nails just like coming together, especially, in the fashion industry, considering with celebrities wearing nail art, we're starting to get credit, for our work. Like, what's your whole
Oh,
take on that?
oh yeah. I mean, like, why aren't nail artists at Met Gala? Like, that should be a thing, right?
Right.
I mean that's like Kara Walker goes to the Met Gala, right?
Hmm.
um, I think that nail artists are totally artists, right? For me, it's like a total extension of my practice.
Hmm.
And one of my, when I was doing art and nail art, sorry, all the noises, but one of my goals, pipe dream goals, but like in my artistic bucket list, I would love to work behind the scenes at a fashion show.
Right.
um I would absolutely love that, to be like the nail artist who's like either in the back, doing the models work, or maybe one day be the one who works with the designer to like design the nail that like goes on all
Hmm.
the models. Like I think that'd be so cool. Very different from my practice, but clearly all the adornment that I have is I have always had an affinity for fashion and like negotiating the way that I present myself to the world. And my mom, I love my mom. She doesn't give a shit. um, she never put limitations on the way that I dressed or presented myself, and that's why like you see photos of me in preschool with like a giant furry like maroon colored coat and like
Hmm.
rainbow socks and leggings, and I'd like wear two different leggings on two legs, and she always
Right.
gave an opportunity to like play dress up every single day. So I love fashion. I love playing with culture. I would love to break into that industry with a
Hmm.
nail angle. I'm not a designer of garments. I cannot handle fabric at all. Too messy. But nails, I'm obsessed with. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool to see, with fashion, helping, nail artists get a leg up. And it's
Yeah.
really, really cool because it goes to show, like how I said earlier, like fashion is also a fashion statement, but as well as the nails just as much as an accessory,
Oh my
so
God. I mean, it's like I think I started getting lashes recently because some, of the girls at my nail school, they want to do full service. So they're teaching themselves like lashes and nails and,
Mhm.
cosmetology in general. So I was like, I can't get nails and no lashes. Like what? Um, but somebody that I didn't say when you said, are there other nail artists you're looking at, was Natalie Minerva, who's the nail artist for
Mhm.
Euphoria.
Right.
And I started following her immediately. I actually, yeah, and kind of because like it's such a like Euphoria is such a Gen Z fashion moment, but also like the nail artists and like the designers of these shows, like how many people copied Maddie's nails after like the last season, sort of thing like that. So
Mhm.
I'm really interested in the way that nail artists are influencing fashion and culture in that way, right? Because artists are like the tastemakers of our time.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And also too with the nail art as well, it's getting more conceptual. That's what I like about it. It's like very experimental.
Juan Alviar is incredible. Like I dress for functionality. Like I cast off heels years ago. I only wear platform shoes. I have a pair of Make a Wolf and Buffalo Londons, and I only wear platform shoes. But I'm growing into the embrace of like non-functional fashion, and I think nails are a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm like a person that likes to express myself. I'm a sneaker person. I love sneakers. I like being stylish. I like, streetwear and things like that. So yeah, that's on my end. And I love how where fashion is going. It's not to one specific thing. The possibilities are endless. It's getting more conceptual with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Now, in terms of the art world, what's your whole take of the progression of art and where it's going? And what is something that you would like to see in art or in nails?
I mean, I already touched on this, but I think art is moving towards technology, right? With like metaverse stuff and,
NFTs.
virtual reality. Yeah, I have my own thing on NFTs. Like I think because I do digital art, it'd be so easy for me to get into that scene, but it just, again, that's like my artistic gut where everyone kept telling me, get into NFT, and it's just like, it just doesn't feel like where I wanted to go. And I'm more interested in nails.
Right.
I'd rather spend my time on that than digital art, but I do think that whether it's the art world or our world becoming more technology based, if not that, it is art and fashion and culture becoming more reliant and inspired by technological aesthetics. I think that, fashion is cyclical, and right now we're going back into like the early 2000s aesthetics. I think eventually we're probably headed into another like futurism inspired, like the 60s was like the space age inspired like aesthetic, right. Everything with like spaceship or I think that's somewhere where we're headed is more technology inspired art and artwork, and I'm here for it. I think I'm most excited about, I spent years hating was my dog. I spent years hating my work for being so, digital. And right. Now I think now I'm looking at more as like, okay, the art world is catching up to where I was at like 13, 14. That sounds very brazen, but it's honestly true.
Right, exactly. How would you define success in your personal opinion?
Success is being an artist. And I think that's because, money, all these things, I've struggled with housing and reliance and all the like, growing up, and I've levels of success of elitism or visibility. And now what helped me define, I think, the way that I find success for myself is defining failure more. So I think a failed artist is an artist who doesn't make art anymore. And so as long as you're making art, you're an artist. And that is my success is to build myself a lifetime of remaining and creating, and again, right, time, money, resources. In a way, I would love to build a life for myself that I can, have these 3 limitations that will never go away, but still right. Be able to make my work at the level, capacity, but most importantly, scale that I want to.
Now, what's next for you? Like, are there any plans in terms of paintings? No, like what's next for you?
I'm still in art school. I have about 1.5 years left. And so I'm excited to kind of finish out strong. I went in the first year this year. Like I transferred from Tufts University where I was studying sociology with focus in race and criminal justice studies. And so it was a big switch, right? Like I was like, part of that was honestly, I was like, okay, like if I'm gonna, I've struggled with suicide ideation and kind of, like I said, like my main thing of being like, I'm gonna stay alive is like, I'm on this right. earth to like do work. I'm on this earth. If I had such a shitty time, how do I make it better for other people? And I was like, I'm gonna be AOC. Like right. I'm gonna go into politics and go to Tufts. like I'm gonna go like make sure like abortion laws are like set in stone. I'm gonna make sure that we like protect people's rights and healthcare and all these things. And then I realized I just do not have the personality for that stuff. And I like was so bored at Tufts, and I was bored of like not being able to express myself, all these things. And so then I think the next level of like protecting the world and moving the world forward is culture shifts and protecting culture. And right. That's why I think I've really embraced this life mindset and total exception. I don't know, accepting like artistry as my world. But in that sense, next steps wise, I went to art school and I explored and I took fiber and I took sculpture and whatnot, and I'm focusing on painting now.
Mhm.
And so I'm excited to really push my luck, I think, with, the painting world and the art world and maybe the gallery world and of course nails. So,
Mhm.
I'm I'm excited to, like, I'm going to start working at a salon this summer.
Mhm.
And I think that'll be an entirely new world that'll be really exciting.
That's really, really cool. Last but not least, where can people find you on social media and how can people support your work?
Yeah, support my work by support my work by ordering press on nails if you want. Follow me, DM me. I love verbal words of affirmation. I also love fan art. Yeah, but all my socials are, mostly Instagram and TikTok, Ameya Okamoto, and of course nails by Ameya. Um, Ameya is spelled exactly how it sounds. It's phonetic, Ameya. I don't
Mhm.
know, everyone messes that up, but it's Ameya. Yeah. So thank you so much, Asia, for giving me the space to also, like, talk, even with, I think we got through a good chunk of it without my family interruptions. But honestly, this is like how I grew up in a small 2-bedroom apartment for like
Mhm.
the most of my life with like 4 people and a dog and stuff.
Right.
And we moved into this house literally last year. And it's like so weird because
Mhm.
my whole childhood we didn't have a house. And then, like,
Right.
as soon as my mom is slowly became an empty nester, she like had the resources to like start like building her own life because she had
Right.
started having kids so young. Yeah, so it's very I was like, the interview, I feel like chaos is very representative of the work energy, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ameya, for jumping onto the show. I love what you're doing. Yeah, I know, I love how you're just about progression and about social justice. It's absolutely amazing. Your work is absolutely incredible. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much, Asia. Yeah, thank you.
You're most welcome. Take care.
Follow me on social media, Instagram and TikTok.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, ASIATHABIRD.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews to come very soon. Take care and stay beautiful.